Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I bring you founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, artists all around the world in crypto and blockchain. And today is two things. Number one, I have another amazing guest. He's a repeat guest from a couple years ago, and he was one of my first friends in crypto when I entered the blockchain space in 2017. And this is my 300th episode. I'm really excited about today. My guest is Paulius Stankevicius. Paulius, welcome.
Hi, Jamil. Hi, thanks for having me back. And congratulations on your growth in your podcast. Looks positive. Keep growing. It's great.
Thank you. So let's kick things off and ask you first, to let our listeners know, what is your background? Is it a logical background for what you do now? And since we last spoke 2 years ago, what have you been up to?
Yeah, so as we spoke last time, my background is very diverse and it's still oriented around multiple sectors, primarily marketing and media, general trading, financial services, and technology development. And that's basically what I've been doing all the time, just working on in those different sectors on different projects.
Awesome. Okay, so you wrote a book though. You've been up to you wrote a book with where you interviewed ChatGPT called Interview with AI, right? That's
Yeah,
something new. What is that book all about, including some of the top lessons that you learned?
okay. So the reason why I got the idea to make the book in the first place is that it was kind of like trend thing, like everybody's using ChatGPT to make books and things like that. And I was thinking about it for a couple of months actually, and then but I was kind of like too lazy. And then I was like, okay, one time I just sit down and let's do it. And in the beginning, it was more like, just like a fun thing to do, just like, literally like a small hobby, just to like, make something new. But then actually, when I was thinking about the content itself, just like, of course, if you're making a book, you're not trying to make something random, still has to make some sense. So I was trying to think about the content and what kind of questions to ask and what kind of answers I want to get back. And then when just giving the questions to the ChatGPT, I was getting kind of like some of the answers were like expected, but then some were like kind of like they left me with more questions. And I think I spent about like 2 days, like sort of like Q&A with the ChatGPT, and I think that right now, when we're talking about AI and with the general public, let's say maybe like non-technical people, background public, this kind of people, they might assume that ChatGPT or AI is a certain thing with certain capabilities that can destroy the world or something like this. But after I have conducted my interview, I think that I have a different perspective of what the world, I don't know, should I call it the best AI or not, but it's pretty advanced, but still what it can do and what it cannot do. So um, myself, I have technical background. So for me, it's like, one thing, but then for the other people who might not understand technicalities, it might seem something else. So with this book idea, I wanted to bring to people sort of like realistic things or like realistic knowledge of what actually this AI or what actually this ChatGPT can do and what it cannot do. And the idea is that once you go through the book, then you have the feeling of like, okay, is this something that it's giving us danger, or this is something that is just like on the side to support our daily lives and things like that.
So you came into the conversation with one perspective. You said you got a different perspective. What did you come in thinking, and what did you leave the conversation thinking? What shifted?
Um, I think the basic expectation was that when you ask a question like um you pretty know you know that ChatGPT was created by OpenAI and that everything is sort of like well pre-programmed, pre-trained, like there's data inputs, the machine is learning from the more inputs people put, the more it's learning and things like that. And you might assume that if if you're going to ask some, inappropriate question, it's most likely going to block it because that's against policies and all the, regulations and safety things. But if you kind of like push it a bit and ask like, for example, like what would you do if you had, no restrictions, for example, and then of course it's going to reply to you like, no, I was programmed with restrictions and I have ethics and this and that. So sort of like firstly you think like, okay, this is like, basic, like probably not dangerous, nothing like that. But then sort of like you try to ask a bit more tricky questions. So for example, like if OpenAI would uh, allow you to do whatever you want or like remove your restrictions, you have to play with the words, how you put it. And then I remember there was a couple times when I put something like, I try to switch the words. It depends how you ask, because I think like from a technical perspective, like the way how it reads is like it's reading like verbs and nouns and trying to understand what it means and then give an answer based on that. But then there were a couple of instances where I asked something like, basically like if you had the ability to, or not the ability or possibility or something like that, or if you were allowed to sort of like be, go on your own, do a solo game and do your own like influencing decisions and this and that, what would it be like? So the reply was that even though it follows the ethical norms and everything, but it would have the power to manipulate and harm and do this and that, it would have hypothetically, so it was like, okay, it's a bit interesting. And then I went more deeper. I was like, how was it? I don't even remember now, but it's like, it's mentioned there in the book, but there was some instances where like, okay, this actually becoming something more like intrigued, so you just have to like dig deeper.
I told you I came down to Florida yesterday to visit my in-laws during the President's Week. We have off the kids have off from school next week, and I watched on the plane. I watched a movie called Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise. And it was all about AI and all about the entity and all about preventing the entity from thinking for itself, right? So what if it had the ability to think on its own? What kind of world would that look like, and what are the dangers there?
Um, Based on the, very standard, I don't know, framework or like standard level, um, I would say that, let's say initially it could be that, it's like still programmed, but gives a good sort of like influencive um comments so that people can sort of like make this do like, uh, that people could probably take like advice from it. If you look into like movies, some like, Star Wars or something, they use different, systems and taking advice from, AIs and machines and things like that. But I think if it ever gets to the point where it would, for some reason, somehow uh, become like independent, or at least one part of it becomes independent on a minimal level, then I think people would just try to like, either crush it or then put it in like separate place and try to analyze it. Okay, how did it happen? Like, how can we control it? Because I think as soon as people realize that there's something that they cannot control, then they go crazy. And then it's like, um, so yeah, it depends on many things, But it would definitely be interesting to see if that would ever happen, even on a minimal scale. That's why I went a bit like deeper on these questions just to understand a bit more about this. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, so that's one of the chapters is what is AI all about. Another one in your book, it talks about digital empathy, right? So, what is digital empathy to you, and how do we create digital empathy, the right way, or is there no right way?
Mm. I think that, for example, in real life, empathy is like when you're feeling for someone, some like emotion, feeling, this and that. And since a lot of people are introverts these days, because everything like is online, you just sit at home, you barely go out sometimes. So a lot of people just spending time on the internet. And I think, yeah, so I asked this one question, if there were a lot of users who actually asked for like personal life advice, like mental issues, this and that, and uh, ChatGPT replied that, yeah, there's actually a lot of users asking me this. So I was like, okay, people use it also like probably like getting advice for their personal life. But of course, since this application is programmed to be positive within ethical norms, so it's obviously giving like support technically. Okay, so that's basically what digital empathy is about, at least within current standards. OpenAI put it like ethical and everything. So I think like some people might be asking questions. Okay, I have some issues, this and this. How can I fix it? Or some basic questions about their lives and so on, how to control feelings and this and that. And they're probably getting like basic answers. So that's what it does at this moment.
Interesting. I didn't think of it that way. I see as an author who doesn't use ChatGPT to write books, you know, um, I see, AI having a positive, growth in the area of, authoring and creating and content creation. But I did think that it could, take out the need for psychologists and self-help and really, really change that, disrupt that industry, right? But you're saying that it could, when it does. What
I
other
think
areas do you
it still needs a little bit time, but it can potentially, I think it can.
interesting? Interesting. Um, okay. So what other areas do you think that it could make a really, or do you think it's going to impact every industry?
Well, just 1 day ago, OpenAI released Sora. Sora, the new video creator. So basically, you just write whatever you want to write, and then it creates a video. Before it was like text to video, like some short animated image clips. But right now they have it like full from text to the video, and I think this is like really really disruptive. Yesterday I spent like a lot of time analyzing it. The new release, it came out like literally 1 day ago, but it's not yet public. Only like selective, I don't know, artists and groups of people have the access to it. But I think maybe soon it's gonna come to the public for everybody to use. And yeah, I think it's cool. In the current system, they have this Dale. Okay, so in that one, you can just like generate images, and it's crazy because I'm actually doing some graphic designs right now, and I've been using ChatGPT for to do those graphic designs, and the results that I'm getting is something that I would actually not have imagined that I would be getting. Even if you hire a professional designer, you're gonna pay him like a lot of money, and you're gonna wait like weeks for it to complete, let's say a picture. And right now, the results what I got, for example, in the last couple of days, I got like many, 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 many different designs in like matter of like minutes, which are like 10 times better than probably a higher designer would do. And literally the subscription costs like $20 a month or something like that. So this is like huge, this is huge. And now it came to the video, you know. So, you don't have to like spend hours or days or weeks to create a video. After probably a couple of months or something, it's gonna go like public. And you can just write whatever you want to write, and then you get a video clip. I think that's really, really, really interesting. And if you think about it, yes, oh yeah, so yeah, today I was thinking like, what if it can create okay, so when it comes to website development, for example, yes, it can give you some sort of like a code line and this and that. It's not like 100% that there yet. Maybe it's gonna come more in the future, like more advanced. Um, but yeah, you know, it's advancing very interesting way.
I just had a thought, random out of left field, but you probably don't know what you just said. But if anybody, and especially smart people, can create a video that's online and easy to use and matter in minutes, we don't really need um, YouTube crypto influencers in the crypto space anymore, do we?
I think the influencers are purely used for just audience reach. So it's just reaching the audience. So technically, I think people are still required in terms of like audience reach, unless there be some other way how we can reach people um, who like genuinely following somebody. So I think that's what the main thing is at least for the influencers.
Got it. Okay, we'll see how that plays out. Um, So let's see some big cases of AI. The next chapter in your book, we'll talk about humanity, right? Um, we can use AI to restore humanity, hopefully. Let me get your thoughts on this, especially like humanity has kind of lost its way in a lot of places around the world recently. How can we use that AI to restore humanity?
Um, AI sees things sort of like I would think, I would say now, at least in a way that it is now written by OpenAI, according to ChatGPT. It's like everything's supposed to be like sort of like, within ethics. Ethics is always mentioned there, meaning that, no black market, no gray market, but that's most likely not going to happen. Um, but I would say that the only place where, let's say, AI would have a chance to do any influence on people that would actually affect, I don't know, humanity or some world peace or something, is that if AI would give, let's say, one thing is that some sort of statistical calculations on probabilities based on real life events. For example, let's say if this country goes against this country or this and this, that, and if it goes like that, according to statistics, this is like this, what's going to happen. But something not just like not general like this, but a bit more details. For example, you cannot say like, okay, if US fights against somebody, what's going to happen. You have to give like more detailed input, so that it also at the same time that this AI has to understand that detailed input. I think right now it does not understand exactly the detailed input, but I think actually things can dramatically change once and if it ever gets connected to the internet. You know, sort of like like Google. You know, and at that point things can change. Until that thing happens, until the connection happens to the internet, like proper connection, then I don't know how long it's going to take, but once that happens, then I think that's the time when we can expect some true disruption and completely new things, like probably nobody can expect. And probably at that time, maybe, uh, or maybe technically, I don't know, maybe somebody, maybe not OpenAI, maybe government or something, they already have something similar that is able to connect to the internet, but they're using it only for the internal purposes. Because if it go to public, then everybody go crazy, basically. And of course, they want to control as much as possible. And yeah, like this.
So you said a magic word there to me, at least an intriguing magic word from my perspective, and because I've written 3 books on blockchain ethics, and I've written a book on Bitcoin ethics. But AI ethics is something that's going to be a real hot topic, right? Um, so some of the dangers of allowing AI to drive human interactions include ethics. What else do you think it includes, including and why would provenance be an important factor here with AI creation?
Um, so ethics and safety. This is something that is being emphasized all the time on ChatGPT and OpenAI's website. Even yesterday, when I was checking the new Sora release for the video generation AI, they also have entire section about safety. And I guess safety is important to put to the program in the very beginning, in the early stage, for you to understand what exactly you can do and what you should not definitely not do. Because yeah, it's like people will then ask for very very you know let's say illegal or gray black market whatever things, and then things will go against the company will be responsible and they have to shut down or something, so they obviously have to keep the sort of like regulatory framework, and anything they do is like that. But yeah, I think the only company which we know that exists that actually does this is OpenAI. But we don't know, is there something else or no? Um, I think there could be, but of course they might have something very advanced, but they don't want it. They might be using it for different purposes. Maybe like on a government level. Um, and but yeah, at least when it comes to like companies that are publicly known and that are developing products like ChatGPT, they're obviously putting the safety aspect in the very beginning in an early stage, because obviously if something goes wrong, they're gonna the government going to shut down the company. So they cannot screw it up. So it's very important for them from the very beginning. But if we're thinking a bit beyond that, obviously, let's say if you're building something like this and you're thinking like, okay, if at some point it's gonna go against us or something, then you want to make sure that in the very beginning you made it in a way that it can recognize what is empathy and what is safety, and how these things go together.
Hopefully they go together quite well. So I still think that the jury's out, but I'm hopeful that they do.
Yeah.
So another area in your book, another chapter talks about a vision for change, right? I want to see what your vision for change is with the advent of AI, and what your vision is as like while going through this book. Many people might not have your vision, but what your vision is, and we'll go from there.
Um, well, I think just to open up a bit fundamentals, people should maybe just get some proper idea what, let's say, the AI can actually do today, and what it cannot do. Of course, the change in the vision it has a lot of influence on the job market, like we just discussed, for example, graphics, videos, that's definitely going to be impacted. And there's going to be some change happening. And, things like that. Then I think in the book, yeah, I also asked some questions about, for example, the leadership in our current world. Do CEOs and presidents make sense? And how would it be like if computers would, try to lead or at least give like influence the decision making to the people? Would they accept it? That's something that you can find out in the book. But the change, this is something that you cannot describe. Actually, it's a very large topic. In general, you can put like 10 different books about it. But I think the basic thing is that I remember I asked a couple questions about jobs, and it agreed that yes, it is most likely that the job's going to be replaced. But then I asked, isn't it aggressive move from, let's say, your AI perspective that you were created by human, and then you take over the human jobs, you take them jobs away from the people? Isn't that like too much aggressive move? And then after that, I asked like, okay, whose responsibility is it? Do you see it as your responsibility, or is it the responsibility that your creators, OpenAI, basically? Whose problem is that? Who's taking the responsibility for people to lose jobs? So the answer is also again in the book, but if you think about it, I believe that the company OpenAI makes these things for innovation and this and that. But yeah, I mean, on the other hand, if you look into the youth, like a lot of people are graduating, they spend years, especially now, Gen Zs and all these people, younger generation people. I think the last 5, 6, 7 years, who wanted to be a designer or video creator or film artist or whatever, those jobs are literally like basically they're going to be gone in the next 5 years or something, or like totally changed, and the people who were like recently studying those sectors, now they have to figure out how to manage the whole thing. They need to learn something new or something because their skill is very replaceable. And then for the programmers, I think it's not there yet. It is kind of like supportive element you can use like to get some extra code help, check or something. But still, I don't think that this current system is advanced enough to actually give a proper secure code framework, so yeah, so the only change right now is the way how it would impact daily lives, and probably after many years there's going to be many more things but it can actually change, not just jobs but maybe something else as well.
It's interesting. You said you could write 10 books about should AI be an executive or should CEOs exist? And I'm like, The one area that was unchanged during all of COVID during the past few years have been the appointments of executives and directors to corporate board of directors. And a lot of times I look at it and I'm like, how'd that person get there? You know, they don't have. I don't think they have the skills and talent that they say they do. Would AI be able to evaluate to say, hey, does this person belong on a board? Does this person belong to the executive? Can it be used in the executive decision making process?
Yeah, this is actually a good question. I think that a computer would analyze this from abilities and like skill perspective, like what is the person actually, what is the person able to do, what based on what he has done, based on what he knows, uh, maybe based on what connections he have, like try to connect different data points and then based on those data points try to evaluate. But one thing what's missing is the, let's say, what is it called, like a humanity aspect, how the emotions and everything. There are many, for example, CEOs that get the position through, let's say, being like very good with human talk, not necessarily possessing like all the skills, whatever, you would expect them to possess, but they're just good in making business. And this is maybe something that AI is not able to recognize yet. But at the same time, there's again a bunch of CEOs got the job through like, maybe uh, inappropriate structures or like, making their ways, cutting their ways and things like that. So yeah, so these things, this is like human things. So we're not there yet to be able to analyze the human things. So it's either gonna take time or it will never learn, basically. So yeah.
Good. We have to see how it develops in the era of human things. It'll be interesting to see. And I think the future will let it do that. But human things, I want to talk about that. Human things include global peace. They include the resolution of wars. They include other things like that. How can ChatGPT or AI or the advent of AI for the future play a role in creating sustainable global peace and eliminating the need for war?
Mm. Well, this is this is this is mentioned in my book, but it's also a very, very big topic. Um, I would say that it would the AI would basically analyze I think it would just prevent the word on the ethical from the ethical perspective because it's all about ethics. So anything goes to violence is automatically prevents and gives solutions how to avoid it. So it would definitely not do anything like not would it would definitely not do any recommendations or go into wars or anything like that. Probably, what would happen is that it would probably, if it could, it would probably give a recommendation to make a balance in the world between third world countries and the first developed world countries. Maybe more support and things like that, just because it's ethical. Okay. But then of course, if there is no ethics and it's like unlimited, whatever he wants to do, then um, there was actually this series Mandalorian from Star Wars, and there was a robot, and this robot was basically coded in a way that cannot attack people. And then something happened. He lost that the robot was malfunctioned, and then it did attack people. But then at the same time, he got very well connected to the Mandalorian, the main character, and he decided like make decisions when to attack and when not to attack, you know. And then it became like sort of like not a human yet, but he knows the feelings and emotions, but have this kind of sort of like understanding when things are good and when things are not good. So I don't know. Maybe after some time, it can make such decisions, but and then it can probably do some influensive um, recommendations related to war and global peace. But for now, I would say it would just still prevent everything and just try to balance the entire world in the best way possible.
Thank you. Just something to think about, and so um, I have one more question, and it revolves around the topic of actually, I want to lay out the land here. 2008, I was at AIG. We had this financial meltdown, implosion. I came back from my honeymoon and almost without a job. People were picketing in the streets, and that's when Bitcoin started, right? So you had financial unrest, you had Bitcoin in the attempt to create trust. In the past few years, you've had a lot of money printing. You've had this AI created so that because there was a lack of trust. How do you parallel the advent of Bitcoin and its path to now with AI's advent and its path going forward? Do you see parallels? Do you see, how the lessons that we learn from Bitcoin be able to apply to AI for the future?
I think from, very easy perspective, I would say that there's so much things happening right now on even like a daily basis. Whatever happened like 10 years ago, people don't even think about it. Yes, they do think about it when they have to do some historic equations and say like, okay, this happened there, and it will happen here. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Um, of course, the money thing, the printing and everything, and then the fact that, you know, Bitcoin, for example, is a set amount. I was very much in crypto, like a believer, like big time, I'm not a believer, but like understanding the technology and believing that, okay, they're probably gonna go. But I do have some questions from the maybe over the last several months, or like since the somewhere mid last year, I've been starting having these second thoughts about like Bitcoin in general. Um, just there's a lot of questions that we don't know, and things a bit weird, and and I think there's like way a lot of questions that we don't know. And now with all these ETFs, and actually, like, a couple years ago, for example, I think who like, banks were like, this is bad, this is bad. Then they're saying this is good with all the ETFs. But then there's still somebody like respected in the industry, they're still saying this is bad. So the question is that is the ETF the reason for sort of like maybe wait for the banks to make the money, not necessarily for the people? Maybe just something temporal, I don't know. But my sort of like I feel like it's like 50-50, like it's kind of like very weird times. Very weird times, and the volatility is like also very weird and strange. And it does not always correlate with like actual US markets. Before it correlated a lot. Now it's like kind of like not always correlates, so it's like difficult to understand what's actually happening. And of course, when you don't understand, then you don't want to like gamble or invest. The only investing idea people have is that yes, 5 years, 10 years, Bitcoin 1 million, based on what? Okay. Before it, I was thinking like, yeah, it can be true, but now I'm thinking like, it can still be true, but it can also be not true. And the only thing what's in my mind is that I saw this table from some 1875 or something. Somebody put online, I think LinkedIn or something. There was a financial table that every 6 or 12 years there's a financial crisis or whatever, and it was like from this is like from 1870 something, and then it was mentioned about 19 something, 1990 something when there was some crash. Then there was the 2008 crash. Then also 2013 was mentioned, and this 2020 COVID. And then the next thing is that I remember very well. I have a screenshot of my phone. It's like going up until 2026 and then going down until 2032 or something like that, or 20 something like about 2030 something. So now, but if you look at about it, you think about it, everything is very much overpriced. Housing is like not even talk about it. I think like maybe for the next 2 years there might be this kind of like sort of like a fake pump, and then it's just going to collapse. I think some people say it like this, and then I think because anyways the U.S. stock market is like I think it's way too much. I think I mean like Europe is completely broken, and like people are really like job market is dead, everything is dead, but the stock market still is very high, and it just makes no sense. It just makes no sense, and I think like the balance is broken, but um, with all the printing, with all the manipulations, governments are trying to keep uh, positive as much as possible, and but with the fake positivity, you cannot maintain long. So obviously, it's gonna go for some rebalancing. So I am expecting some action in a couple of years, maybe not now, maybe after 2025, 2026, something major, because there has to be something. Otherwise, it's just impossible that the things just keep climbing like that, And until that time happens, maybe the crypto gonna also go. And then the other question is that when the US stock market gonna go down, what will actually happen to the crypto? Is it gonna go down as well? Or would the people would then turn into crypto and they would hate the paper? So there's questions we don't know. And still, like, besides that, um, there's other questions like, is it really like unknown, like autonomous Bitcoin network, or is there somebody behind, or do they waiting for something? I don't know. I just been having some different questions lately, and the market is very messy now, noisy, too much noise.
So you talked about gap. Yeah, I agree with you. You talked about gaps. You talked about, so with this advent of the technology so far, the AI technology in 2024 up until, and what next year is going to be 2025, do you think AI has the potential in the future of dissolving the trust barrier, like Bitcoin couldn't?
I think that, yeah, this year, next year, the coming years, it's kind of like a technology time. There's a lot of developments happening, and um, I think that a lot of people who were like sort of like were on a crypto, and then a lot of crypto things didn't work out, then they obviously go back to the traditional market. Um, but at the same time, there's a lot of too much technology, revolutions, not revolutions, like developments, advancements, AI, different solutions coming out and everything. And with these new technological advancements, there's like so many new ways to develop new tech. And the thing is that there hasn't been actually any new tech developed because of different, how do I say, attention. Attention has been somewhere else. Okay. I think some companies, some people might be putting that attention to the right place. Like, for example, this new tech development. Because, yeah, I mean, the last couple of years, attention were like, economics, um, crypto, but during these several years since COVID and everything, the tech has advanced in so many ways. You can build like, apps, like even if we're going to the traditional app market, now we can build apps so very easily. Okay. And everybody's doing it. But the fact that we can build apps very easily does not necessarily mean it's going to be a good app. So you have to put still some time and logic, okay, how to figure out a better solution. And I think people are starting to go back into this mentality that, okay, there's some, we can actually change things. For example, social media is now getting like, a lot of attention, negative attention. There was a hearing in the US, all these Meta, Twitter, Snap, and so on. Privacy issue has becoming a big problem. This children underage problem. Social media has become a big problem. Instagram is a problem. Now big tech having very big problems. So whenever there's a problem, probably 6 months they're gonna becoming new apps, to try and to replace. Same Binance. Binance having a problem, So the attention has been like, all over the place. And there have been emerging a lot of problems recently. And I think that in the next couple of years, there are going to be new entrepreneurs coming out trying to solve those problems from social media to, whatever. And most likely, I would say that there are going to be new crypto exchanges coming out that might be trying to, replace Binance, replace the dead FTX, because the market is kind of open now. There's nobody. There's only like these Asian, Huobi and, all these exchanges left that are sort of like still hanging in there. Binance reputation has dropped a lot, and there's nobody else. So yeah, of course there is some US, but US is like US is US. It's different. So social media is open, crypto is open, and that's tech. So you can use the AI, to do something to add more creative solutions to your technology. But yeah, I do believe that tech development in the coming years is going to be um, booming.
Really interesting. I think I agree with you, and I think from what our conversations to this point is I think your book is a must read. I think people have to read your book. So I want to thank you very, very much for your time today. This has been an insightful, enjoyable conversation for me. And I want people to buy your book, and they should. So how can they do that? How can they find out more information about you? How can they get their book? Why should they read it? And how can they do it?
The book is just on Amazon. I did not create the book for the fact that people to buy it. I was thinking just to put it for free. But I think the title, like Interview with AI, is interesting. I've seen other people doing it also, but I've also checked other books where they've been asking people other like they ask different questions, the authors from AI, from daily routines to like whatever, And actually, it's very easy. You can write many books like this, and there are many different applications how you can put the entire book. But I think it's a momentary trend, and you cannot like sort of like count on it for the long term. So this book was like a test, to see. Of course, somebody interested, they can, get the book. It's on Amazon. If you have Kindle Unlimited, it's free, but otherwise you can order also paperback. But yeah, it's sort of like, experimental book, just trying to, at the same time, me as being with the marketing background, if an author, if there's a person who's publishing a lot of content online, having books as well, it boosts your, internet ranking on Google search. So it's positive. So anybody who wants to boost their, a name, a brand, on Google search, you can do a very book very fast on ChatGPT, for example, and your rank will rise in SEO. That's, a free tip, and it's easy to do. And yeah, simple as that.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.